Ron, Kate, Matthew's here. Brian, Paula, Kim, Erica, Kate, Rainy, Destiny. Yeah, please chime in. Say hello. Let us know where you are. Juliet. All right, great. All right, as people are arriving, I will take this opportunity to begin by doing something I forgot to do last time. Pretty important. I forgot to thank our sponsors. I mean, I must have been all excited and distracted. So let's start with Shareable. There's Tom, Llewellyn, and Candace. Thank you for a great backup from an organization that's been doing great work for a long time. So if you don't know shareable.net, you should take a look at all the great work they do. There's also at the University of Colorado, the Med Lab. Nathan Schneider is the head of that project. Then at the CUNY School of Labor and Urban Studies, our wonderful colleague, Rebecca Lurie, is part of this conversation, and several of her students are here. Welcome to them. Rochdale Capital, here where I am in Washington, DC, and my own little puppy, Solidarity Hall, are all co-sponsors here. So thank you for that. One other little delicate matter I thought I would mention, if you're, if in your enthusiasm to sign up, you blew right past that donate button, you know, don't despair. We're going to give you another chance here, if you would like, to donate for all these various kinds of expenses. We've got the interpretation and so on, and that's the donate button on the RMEOC website. So if you're inspired, feel free. And then maybe the next thing we should do is let Allie say something about the simultaneous interpretation. That makes sense?
Perfect. Muy buenas tardes a todos, todas, y todes. Good afternoon, everyone. The organizers of today's event have made a commitment to making sure that these webinars are available to everyone, regardless of your preferred language. As such, we do provide simultaneous interpretation for English and Spanish. In just a few moments, you'll see a globe icon appear at the bottom of your Zoom screen. When you see that icon appear, please go ahead and click on it and select the language in which you feel most comfortable, either English or Spanish. If you're on a phone or tablet, you can select this option by pressing the center of your Zoom screen, then navigating to the three dots in the corner where more options are listed. Please do be aware of your speed and clarity when speaking. Please remain on mute when not speaking to minimize any sort of background noise. And lastly, I ask that we speak one person at a time. If you have any difficulty with this technology, please just let me know. I'm going to repeat now the instructions in Spanish. Muy buenas tardes. Como dije, mi nombre es Ali y los organizadores de este evento han hecho un compromiso a la justicia del lenguaje. Es decir, que queremos que este espacio esté accesible para todas las personas sin importar su idioma preferido. Por lo tanto, tenemos interpretación simultánea en inglés y español. En un par de minutos van a ver un globo terráqueo que aparece en la parte inferior de sus pantallas. Al hacer clic en este globo, pueden seleccionar el idioma en el que prefiere participar, si sea inglés o español. Para los usuarios de tabletas o celulares, las mismas opciones están disponibles presionando el centro de la pantalla y yendo a los tres puntos donde salen más opciones. Por favor, ayúdenme a través de controlar su velocidad y claridad en el momento de hablar, poniéndose en mudo cuando no estén hablando, simplemente para minimizar cualquier ruido en el fondo. Y también les pido que hablen una persona a la vez, por favor. Si tiene algún problema o dificultad con esta tecnología, por favor no dude en comunicarse conmigo. Thank you so much. We can turn on interpretation now. Ya vamos a aprender la interpretación.
Perfect. And interpretation is available now.
All right, great. Lovely, and great to see so many folks back for the second round of this. about the same number, slightly more than the first time. So that's got to be a good sign. I want to ask just briefly if we might think about sort of a larger question before we jump right in, which is, what exactly are we building here? And I was thinking there maybe are at least two answers to that. One of them is projects like Katrina and Genevieve are about to present. This is work already going on. It's reaching a substantial size now. And it's wonderful to know that, the co-op world is now going beyond a co-op here and a co-op there to creating larger infrastructure. And infrastructure around social care is the topic today. There's also maybe a larger vision here that was what John Rostakis was talking about last time, which is more of an open question. And that is, could it be that what we're attempting to do here is informally, but with great kind of urgency and seriousness, trying to create the elements of a new social safety net? So at this moment, given all that we know, we could be doing that either in terms of just our own local autonomy in our own communities, but also as a demonstration of what could happen if we were enabled, funded, built up in the ways that we would love to see that happen. So we don't know the answer to that question, but I am happy to be on the journey with so many good people working on that. So let me introduce, let me add one more thing, which is this thing we're building, I want to add, and as you all know, needs to be multiracial. And I want to mention a tool, which some of you are aware of, particularly the folks in co-op development, called the Anti-Racist Facilitation Guide, which came out actually about a year ago. This was created by Camille Carr, Jamila Medley, and Maru Batista. It is an open source tool available both as a Miro board and a PDF. I'm going to drop it in the chat. And it is designed not only for creating a sense of solidarity in co-ops, but actually for any solidarity-minded organization. So take a look at it, highly recommended. Let me introduce Katrina so she can get underway. Katrina Kazda joined the ICA Group in January 2017, and she has been leading their home care work since 2018. She brings a decade of hands-on experience leading businesses, nonprofits, and academic institutions through strategic change processes. She's worked with a wide diversity of business sectors, from banking and food service with clients ranging in size from sole proprietorships to multinational corporations. Her home care work ranges from national strategy development to direct technical assistance and covers a wide diversity of topics from market feasibility to governance. All right, I'll leave it at that, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Katrina, go ahead.
Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for having me. Very excited to be in this room and in this conversation. All right, let me get my screen set up here. Okay. Share. All right, can everybody see my presentation here and ideally not my notes, I hope? Okay, good. All right, we're cooking. Well, thank you so much. Super excited to be here talking with you all and to be sharing about our work with the home care cooperative sector and with Elevate Cooperative. As Elias shared, my name is Katrina Kazda. I'm the Vice President of Home Care Innovations at the ICA Group. And if you're not familiar with the ICA Group is a national nonprofit cooperative organization. We are headquartered out of Northampton, Massachusetts, but work all over the country. And our mission is to advance businesses and institutions that center worker voice, grow worker wealth, and build worker power. So we're going to go on a bit of a journey today, and I don't have too long, so I'm going to cover a lot of ground, be as detailed and high level as I can be. We will cover what is home care, why should we care about home care as a cooperative sector, We'll share a little bit of information about the home care cooperative sector, where we started, where we are today, what some of the wins and continued challenges are, and what the role of Elevate Cooperative is in helping home care cooperatives and the home care cooperative sector address the challenges that are ongoing and really position us to lead in industry change. So just to start, perhaps you're like me, and 7.5 years ago when I started this work, I actually had never heard of home care before. So I just want to quickly level set and explain what it is. So home care is supportive care that's provided in the home to seniors and people with disabilities. There are a variety of different levels of home-based care that advance really in acuity level and complexity, from companionship and personal care to home health care, private duty nursing, and so really a spectrum. The vast majority of home care cooperatives that are in the sector today are really focused in personal care and companionship, which is help with non-medical activities of daily living. So that's things like bathing, dressing, meal preparation, household tasks, really the things that allow someone to remain independent in their own home and to live there safely. We do have some cooperatives that are in the home healthcare space or even providing private duty nursing, and certainly over the last several years, we've seen just a lot of diversity of new cooperatives that are in adjacent care sectors start up. So we're seeing a lot of growth. So because of the massive growth in the nation's senior population, the silver tsunami, baby boomers, all the things that you maybe have heard, demand for home-based care is at an all-time high. A vast majority of seniors wish to age at home, and that's certainly true of the disabled community as well. People want to live in their homes and in their community, and that was only amplified by the COVID pandemic. As a result, home care jobs are among the fastest growing jobs in the economy, which you might think, oh, that's a good thing, except the problem is that home care jobs are unfortunately at this time not good jobs. Our society as a whole does not value care work, and that's certainly true of our economy. And home care is really situated, and poor job quality is situated in this context of a larger racist, sexist, classist, ageist system that just really doesn't value care work and the people who do the work. And so while care work is extremely fulfilling, and if you speak with caregivers who are in our sector, they love their work. This is a chosen career, not just something that they fell into. Unfortunately, however, it does not provide livable wages. There's few benefits. Sick time, time off are sort of luxuries that few people are afforded. There's limited training, and there's almost no opportunities for professional advancement. Most people who want to advance in their careers are ultimately forced out of the field. And together, this is really creating a national caregiver shortage crisis. There are so many people who need care who are not getting it, and a lot of caregivers who are leaving and not looking back because, unfortunately, the profession is just not supporting them and their families in the way that they need. So the cooperative model, the home care cooperative model, was first deployed in 1985 with the launch of Cooperative Home Care Associates that I'm sure many, if not all of you, have heard of. They're located in the Bronx in New York. So they were created to address these very problems, these endemic problems in the industry, to provide quality jobs, high quality jobs, to support caregivers, and in turn to provide high quality care for their clients. Of course, you need a caregiver who's providing care to be supported themselves to be able to deliver a high quality service. Now, I love to show this development timeline because I think it really both depicts the slow development of the sector in its early years and now the really rapid growth that we're seeing today. So you might notice that in the first, it took 24 years to create the first 4 home care cooperatives. And all 4 of those are still operational. They're actually our four largest, and the first three actually still continue to provide public pay services in addition to others. But in just last year alone, 2023, we saw the incorporation of 7 new home care cooperatives. So the speed of development has really, really increased. And it's wonderful. We now have 21 home care cooperatives that are in operation across 10 states. There's at least a dozen startups that are underway in as many states. And in addition, there's a lot of initiatives that are really taking shape now to not only create one cooperative here and one cooperative there, which we very much welcome, but also sort of statewide multi-co-op development initiatives. So ICA Group is involved in a really exciting project in California to create a rapid replication model of a home care cooperative for immigrant caregivers. That's a partnership with DOWI, the Filipino Worker Center, the National Domestic Worker Alliance, the California Domestic Worker Coalition. And our goal is to be launching 3 or more cooperatives every single year, and to have that supported by a state level secondary cooperative, and also be supported by Elevate at the national level. So really some very cool projects that are happening right now to continue to scale the sector. I want to also call out the Cooperative Development Foundation. They launched the Home Care Cooperative Initiative in 2014. And at that point, really began to invest significant resources into the development of the home care cooperative sector. And their support has been absolutely critical to where we are today. So I just really want to call that out. Their work and the work of the Home Care Cooperative Initiative is the foundation on which we are building Elevate Cooperative and really sort of advancing into this next stage of cooperation. So home care cooperatives serve a dual social mission. That's why we're here at the Social Academy, right? They seek to uplift caregivers and care work, and to provide high quality care to our nation's most vulnerable citizens. They do this by respecting and valuing care workers as experts and professionals. And I'd like to kind of highlight and bold this one because it seems so basic, and yet it is a really, really critical difference between employment at a home care cooperative and employment at a traditional home care agency. And of course, there are outliers to that rule, but a lot of caregivers that come to cooperatives are really, they've not been valued, they've not been respected, they've not been treated well, nobody cares what they think. And it's really just quite a difference in their employment experience. Cooperatives place workers at the center of business decisions, of course, because they're cooperatives. They really prioritize improve working conditions, support caregivers to actually provide quality care, offer career advancement opportunities, I think both in the case of actually being able to be an owner, being able to serve on the board, to be on committees, but also cooperatives are really, really good at hiring from within. And the vast majority of cooperative leaders and office administrators are former caregivers, which also means that those people have a better understanding of what the needs are in the field. And then, of course, building individual and community wealth. So we have, for the past 6 years now, we have been benchmarking the home care cooperative sector year over year. And as a result, we have really great proof that cooperatives are actually better than traditional agencies. A key point is that caregiver turnover at home care cooperatives is significantly lower than traditional home care agencies and the industry at large. Turnover is a huge issue in home care. For the last 7 years, turnover in the industry has kind of vacillated between 60 to 80+%. So, that really means almost an entire agency's staff could be turning over in a year. And home care cooperatives have really sat 20 to 30 percentage points or more below that year over year. So clear evidence that they're providing better employment. Tenure at home care cooperatives. Caregiver tenure is increasing year over year. The longer our cooperatives are operating, the longer people are staying. And for some of the cooperatives that have been around now 10, 20, 30 years, they have caregivers who've been there 10, 20, 30 years and really consider those cooperatives their professional homes. We've also found year over year that home care cooperatives pay more than their traditional non-cooperative competitors in their states in terms of wages. And membership at cooperatives is relatively strong, kind of around 65% on average, and it's much higher at smaller cooperatives. So some of that cooperation is harder to maintain in larger agencies and cooperative agencies, and that's something that we have to continue to work on. But generally speaking, engagement is still relatively high. And we're really proud as a sector in these achievements. However, we have a lot more to do. We are truly nowhere near where we want to be in terms of what our goals are. Unfortunately, the larger social and economic conditions in which home care cooperatives exist make it extremely difficult for cooperatives to deliver on their mission and still compete in the market, right? They still have to be competitive from a price point. And when you're competing against people who are engaged in wage theft, who are paying, the bare minimum, are not investing in benefits, or not investing in training, it's very hard. And so we know that there's more that we need to do. We really envision a world where the inverse of all of these points that you see here are true, where every cooperative is paying annual dividends, where all cooperatives are offering comprehensive benefits, where all cooperatives are paying a living wage, really where cooperatives can lead and are demonstrating what job quality means and really setting the standard in the industry. But we just can't do it as individual cooperatives working alone. It's not possible. So to achieve our goals, we know that we need to strengthen existing home care cooperatives. We know that we need to grow the number and size of home care cooperatives. Right now, even though 21 feels like a massive growth to us, of course, in the grand scheme of things, we're still a drop in the bucket. We need to be much larger to really be influencing industry change. And we need to leverage our strength and our number to be able to really push for and demand policy change. Ultimately, there is a lot that we can do in the current market conditions, but there's so much more that could be achieved if we could push policy change. And we have to be doing both at the same time, making meaningful difference now and be driving for larger scale policy change down the road. And so this is where Elevate Cooperative comes in. Elevate Cooperative is a new national secondary cooperative for home care cooperatives that is dedicated to the advancement of home care cooperatives and the home care cooperative sector for the mutual benefit of caregivers and clients. In an industry that, again, does not reward high road businesses or practices, and that, in fact, preferences large national chains and franchises, and nearly every policy move continues to push consolidation, larger, leaner businesses. It's actually an imperative, kind of a matter of survival, that we as cooperative band together and pool resources and power to better compete and to push for that policy change that we know is needed. So the concept for Elevate Cooperative actually was first developed in 2017. The Cooperative Development Foundation funded a study that ICA conducted with engagement from a number of other organizations and individuals in the home care cooperative space. And we were really tasked with looking at the question of how can the cooperative model help to solve the national caregiver shortage crisis? And a key solution that emerged out of that research was the need for a secondary cooperative. And so we've really been working since then to lay the foundation, and now we're ever closer to formally launching the full organization. So when Elevate Cooperative officially launches, it will be a cooperative of home care cooperatives. It will be governed by a cooperative member majority, very much like a worker cooperative. The members will be cooperative businesses who join in, who pay equity, make an equity investment and pay membership dues. In exchange for membership, they will gain access to member benefits. They will elect the board, hire and manage an executive director who will then, run the day-to-day functions of Elevate and in providing the support to cooperatives. And then the board will oversee the management and also really set the strategic direction of the cooperative. So it's really a cooperative for and by cooperatives, and members will be able to tell leadership what they need and what they want, and Elevate will in turn be able to respond. Let's see, my slides always get glitched here because I have photos of these beautiful ladies. All right, hold on. Too big of a, there we go. So just wanted to call out here, as I said, ICA has been involved in the development of Elevate Cooperative since really 2017, 2018. But in December of 2022, we launched our Elevate Advisory Board, which is made up of home care cooperative leaders and home care cooperative developers who are really deeply invested in the home care cooperative sector. And they've been just an incredible asset to the development of Elevate. We meet every month, and they're deeply involved in answering difficult questions and informing the development of Elevate as we get ready for this next phase and for formal launch. There we go. So the work of Elevate. So Elevate is structured sort of in this beautiful piece pie here, where members, businesses will join, and they will, through their membership, get access to core member benefits. They will also have access to value-added offerings. And so those are kind of the core, really tangible benefit pieces. And we've organized it that way, both to keep the cost of core membership down, and because we know not every cooperative needs the same thing. So everything we've developed is in direct response to what we've heard from cooperatives in the sector. And we know that, for example, 6 or 7 or 8 cooperatives need help with digital marketing, but maybe there's 4 or 5 who love that. That's really, their administrator loves marketing. So we are not trying to force anybody into anything, right? Cooperatives are all about free will. And so we really just want to be meeting the needs of cooperatives wherever they are. And so that's why we have it structured this way. And then field building and policy advocacy are actually also benefits, but we're calling them out separately because they're not tangible in the same way as, say, coaching or, a training or a resource. But as I've said throughout, we know that policy advocacy is critical, and that Elevate has a critical role in uplifting the voices of caregivers and of cooperative leaders in the home care industry. And we know that we need to raise a lot of money to support our work, and that cooperatives themselves need grant funding for the different supports that they need. So this whole internal work of Elevate too, that it needs to be doing to kind of move the whole sector forward. And in addition, Elevate will over time also participate in the continued development and scale of home care cooperatives. So in terms of Elevate's core member benefits, we have 7. Again, that have all been developed in response to the needs and desires of the sector. And nearly all of them have been piloted or are actively being field tested in some small way today. But those are peer networking and exchange, education and training, benchmarking, sector scorecards and coaching, the resource library, discounted products and group purchasing, access to grants and financial products, and a member employee satisfaction survey / kind of job quality survey, something that we are still very much proactively developing in partnership with the advisory board. There's so much that I could say, a lot of detail about all of these, but I know I'm short on time. So hopefully we can cover some in the Q&A. I just want to quickly call out here Elevate Community, which is our new online platform, which will host Elevate's online benefits like peer networking and exchange, our resource library, our online training and events, and more. We soft launched Elevate Community at the Home Care Cooperative Conference in March. And we're continuing to grow that and beta test it as we prepare for a full launch. So it's an exciting milestone for Elevate. Just quickly on optional value-added offerings to give you an idea of what that looks like. Elevate employee benefits. We're really working hard to figure out how to provide access to affordable health benefits. It's a key priority that's been expressed. I actually think we're getting pretty close, so I'm really excited about that. Elevate Digital is a templatized website and digital marketing kind of wraparound support program that we developed 2 years ago. We have 5 cooperatives who are using these websites today and meeting bi-weekly to gain and share marketing skills and really grow together in their digital marketing. And then, a whole host of other things that we're working on, including integrated back office softwares and wraparound support, reputation management, et cetera. So in closing, kind of what's next for Elevate, we are pushing hard towards a formal launch of Elevate and Elevate membership in 2024. We're doing major fundraising to support our early operations. We are a small sector and we have big goals. We want to offer a lot. And so we know that we have to fundraise to get there. We also have big goals as a sector to grow. So we have set this intention to have 25 home care cooperatives by 2025, a goal that I'm quite confident we will reach. And now we've set a new goal of 50 cooperatives by 2030. So we really want to be achieving significant scale in the next several years to be able to achieve what we want to achieve. And then, of course, continued development and refinement of our member benefits and our value-added offerings, both for launch, but then ongoing. We want to continue to be responsive to the needs of Elevate's members, and then really growing into this policy advocacy side so that we can demand the change that we know is needed. So that is what I have for you today. Thank you so much. And I look forward to the questions later.
Wonderful. Great work. Thank you, Katrina.
Thank you. Let's see.
Let me introduce Genevieve Sheridan. Her experience includes a decade of managing projects in sustainable agriculture, after which she spent 8 years as a turnaround executive for nonprofits in the economic development and housing spaces. During the pandemic, she created a childcare center inside of a family homeless shelter that serves 200 people a year. And she has trained over 100 low-income childcare entrepreneurs in Oregon, managed public-private facilities, and fulfills fiduciary responsibilities in executive roles. I'm looking forward to hearing from Genevieve.
Thanks, Elias. I'm pretty excited to be here also because I am sitting in our new building. So this was official last week on May 1st.
Cool.
I'm going to share my screen and show you some slides. So I am, let's see, can you see my slides?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great. I'm actually the founder of a nonprofit and 2 social enterprises that sort of came out of the nonprofit. We started this last year in the summer of 2023 by creating Childcare for Regenerative Economies, which is a 501c3 organization in Portland, Oregon. And from there, we realized, well, if we don't start creating childcare centers, there won't be a solution to this problem. And we created Wood Frog Child Havens because our state is 75% of our state is actually a childcare desert. Everything's still looking good, Elias, on the screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this all came about because three people with many years of experience in nonprofit and business said, hey, what would our childcare industry in the United States actually look like if it was designed to be regenerative? And we realized, okay, equitable wealth, that would be in stark contrast to the current trend of private equity investment companies coming into the industry. And in fact, you may have seen some news that in Portland, Guidepost Montessori very quickly shut down 2 childcare centers with 24-hour notice to parents when employees decided to unionize. We believe that workers would be owners of both the business and the real estate, sharing in the profits and the equity that they create. So, and as Katrina was saying, many workers in the care sector do not feel valued, and they are really not valued. So with a culture of cooperativism, we believe that small and medium childcare businesses would be more resilient through shared services networks that they own and govern. And I've been an executive director of nonprofits and run small business development programs, and our participants really had no say in these programs. And sometimes they went away very quickly if funding wasn't renewed. And a key point that we are working on is equilibrium, and I'm talking about like facilities. So childcare is treated a lot like retail, but it's so regulated, and the cost to create a center is so astronomical and time consuming that once we have a center stood up, we really need to protect it in perpetuity and stop this churn of centers popping up and closing down. So I don't think I need to say this to everybody in this webinar, but it's no secret that we have a childcare crisis. When you hear the term childcare desert, I do want you to know that that means that the demand is 3 times higher than the supply. But even when childcare centers pop up, most families cannot afford to pay for childcare, and they are spending 40% more than what is considered affordable. And once you create the facility, it's very hard to find staffing because teachers have been treated so poorly and been paid so little that the turnover in this industry across the US is about 20% within the first 12 months. So last fall, federal ARPA funding was not renewed in our budget, and Childcare Aware, among others, put together data to show that 70,000 centers will shut down. This will leave over 3 million children without care, and that's on top of the 3 million that needed care before COVID. So, but it's a profitable industry when you look at the really largest companies like Childcare, which is headquartered in Oregon, right down the road for me, actually. They are bringing in more than $8 billion a year now, and the industry, although it's $63 billion now, will be double that by 2030. Childcare and Bright Horizons are both publicly traded. Bright Horizons is backed by Bain and Company, but we're falling short. And so families and businesses, like employers, really need innovative solutions. So one solution that we have come up with is Wood Frog Child Havens. This is our model for employee-owned commercial childcare centers. And with our model, here in this first year, starting July 1st is our first official fiscal year, We are standing up 3 commercial centers that will serve 450 kids. Sounds like a lot, but it's just a drop in the bucket. But the cost of childcare is so high. It's about $2,000 a month where I live per child. That 450 kids, that's an $11 million a year business. But the startup costs are also high. So including construction, we're looking at almost $5 million to open 3 centers. Every center will be employee owned and offer extended hours for essential workers and first responders. And our model is to be net zero to optimize energy efficiency and technology. You can see our lofty 5-year plan here of opening 160 new centers and acquiring 80. We know we need to preserve centers that are already here and that are struggling, as well as create new facilities because our infrastructure across the country just isn't there. So in creating employee ownership, in addition to the business ownership, we're really after real estate ownership. That's where the majority of the value of childcare businesses is held. And we're trying to retain talent at the same time that employers are counting on us to retain their talent. And at the heart of everything that we do is the well-being of the children that we're caring for, and that really starts with ensuring the well-being of our teachers. So here's my co-founders. Stefan Avivsen is actually from Denmark originally and raised his children in a system with universal childcare. So he's like the voice of alternate reality. I also lived in Denmark for a handful of years and we went to school together. Mona and I developed childcare businesses together for years in Salem, Oregon. And we mostly worked with low-income immigrant women who were transitioning from being workers to owners. But we were helping them become sole proprietors. And some of them have already decided to join our group. So we have put together a team. You can see there are a lot of women here, and I think that that's important to note is that this is a female-dominated industry. And for that reason, we also know that trauma-informed care is at the heart of everything that we do. So we subscribe to Reggio Emilia pedagogy. Reggio Emilia is actually a town in Italy and happens to be a global hub for employee and cooperative ownership. It's becoming more popular. My own children have gone to Reggio Emilia preschools, and we really believe that this collaborative approach to education is a key to ensuring the well-being of children. So, but we have an adaptable framework. We have been wondering if we should call ourselves a franchise, a social franchise. We've been asked how much it costs to buy in. It's $0, by the way. We know that childcare workers don't have the money to invest. But what we do is we find childcare deserts. They can be urban, rural, suburban. In urban areas, we look for parks close by. We look for areas with work hubs so parents can reliably get to work on time. And we partner with government agencies and employers so we can maximize all available subsidies. We're starting in Multnomah County, which is where Portland, Oregon is located. And then we're going into rural Oregon and some other states that also have childcare crises. And what we're really doing is we're bridging the supply gap, both for providers and for families. So to create these childcare centers, it takes a tremendous amount of resources and vendors and capital. So we have created short lists and partnerships and vendor contracts to streamline everything. So no one is searching for how to do something or who they can trust to get the work done. And I want to point out that we have two software partners, Tutris, which is a childcare benefits administration platform, and Carefully, which is a community building app that our parents can use to talk to each other, because childcare CRMs don't allow parents to talk to each other. And it's a way for them to start coordinating informal care before we even open our doors. And then afterward for drop off and pickup, play dates, and all the wonderful experiences that happen before and after kids are in our care. And I cannot tell you how valuable having a community of other parents is for the mental health of especially moms who are working very hard in our country and are still recuperating from COVID. And so we are really dedicated to revolutionizing childcare. We are supporting trauma-informed care. We are very aware of the support that our BIPOC families need, that homeless families and those living in supportive housing need. We're actually partnering with a nonprofit here in Portland to create childcare centers inside of affordable housing, thanks to our state setting aside general funds for that to happen. At the end of the day, even though we've got a nonprofit, we still need to make a profit to keep the lights on. So how does this all work? Well, we created a nonprofit and we thought that that would be our main focus. And that nonprofit created a program and that we never launched. We immediately created a co-op with this program called ICA Economy Group. And it became our shared services network. So we can offer HR, accounting, payroll, be your admin on your childcare software, set it all up, and so many other things that childcare providers need. And we're in the process of standing up our first 3 employee-owned childcare centers. And both Care Economy and Sea Free are wrapping their arms around these wood frogs and making sure that they last in perpetuity. Because our cooperative business model needs to mirror our pedagogical model. And although Care Economy Group is creating new centers and partnerships and acquisitions, our goal is to create this moment of joy and happiness for kids in our country that have been really affected by the trauma of COVID and just daily life in the United States. So right now I'm sitting in a co-working space in Portland, Oregon that we thought we would partner with, but it turns out we had to buy the business. So we bought Urban Office as a business, and we are leasing this wonderful building in South Portland. It's, with the goal of creating 6,000 square feet of childcare downstairs, and we have 11,000 square feet of co-working upstairs. We should have 60 kids in the space. We already have over 100 members, and the 2 businesses combined produce $3 million of annual recurring revenue. With our 15-year lease, we have the option to buy. And so after we stand up and hand off a turnkey center to employees and put them on the pathway to ownership, we will also be helping them to acquire the real estate. And we're considering how to co-op this co-working space while we're at it. So this is a capital intense industry. It's brick and mortar. When you really think about childcare, it's a real estate business that happens to have kids inside of the buildings. So with our current objectives, we know we need about $5 million. And this is just to serve 400 kids. This county needs an additional almost 5,000 slots. And so we're partnering with Multnomah County Preschool for All, which is tax funded, to provide free childcare for all children ages 3 and 4 by 2030. Anyone can join the Care Economy Group. We're opening this up to businesses that are affiliated with the Care Economy in any way. We've had music schools, ask us if they can join. And so we're broadening our definition of membership. We're actively looking for partners and facilities, still looking for a couple more, and employers. And it's so interesting because we're currently assisting an in-home healthcare business with customizing childcare benefits for their 300 employees across Oregon and Washington. So when I worked in emergency housing and shelters, we always said housing first starts with childcare first. And I'm starting to think that everything starts with childcare because we can't even do home health care without it. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I'm making time next week to talk to anybody who's on today's webinar or watching this recording and just wants to chat about our model, potentially a partnership, and always feel free to reach out to me by phone or email. Thank you.
Wow. Amazing work going on. All right. I want to call briefly on a colleague of ours who has been interested in the subject for some time for a quick comment or two, and that is Joe Waters, founder and CEO of Capita. Capita.org is an independent think tank focused on the flourishing of children and families. Yeah, there's Joe. Joe, please check in. Any thoughts?
Hi, yeah, hi everyone. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Hope you're doing well. It's great to be with you. So thank you, Genevieve, for a great presentation. I would just offer three quick thoughts. First of all, childcare must be an essential component of the cooperative commonwealth, and cooperatives must be an essential component of our childcare infrastructure. We at Capita have been exploring this for almost 6 years now and have found barrier upon barrier. I'd be happy to elucidate what those are specific to the childcare industry. But we need to do a better job, particularly through our childcare funding vehicles like CCDBG and others, to support cooperation beginning at the federal policy level. Secondly, worker ownership and cooperation is an essential response to a growing problem of for-profit and private equity-owned childcare businesses. We have done quite a bit of work on this under the leadership of our senior fellow, Elliot Haskell. I've already put 2 links in the chat for you to take a look at. In addition to regulation, as has been introduced in Massachusetts and Vermont in the last year to control the influence, to check the influence, I should say, of private equity in the childcare sector, we need alternative solutions like cooperation, like regenerative childcare businesses, as Genevieve has laid out for us today. But I think it's also important, as my colleague Elliot Haskell says, every chance he gets, and I will echo him here, we need sustainable public financing to support high quality, community-owned and governed childcare. The childcare industry is one that in which we're deeply underinvested as a country, and we can come up with all sorts of hacks at the community level, but without the financial and funding support, beginning with the federal government to support communities in owning and governing their childcare businesses, those are simply going to be hacks and not sustainable and not supported. In 2020, I argued that the rural electrification of America in the 1930s might be an interesting model for investment. And here's what I mean, just very, very briefly. The Rural Electrification Act of 1936, building on an executive order of 1935, electrified rural America. In 1935, 1 in 10 farms was electrified. by 1952, 9 in 10 farms in America were electrified. It was a major federal investment in an essential infrastructure, which is exactly what childcare is. But it was a major investment that turned ownership of the businesses and that infrastructure to communities. And as a result, today, we still have our over 400 rural electric co-ops, and I'm a proud member of Blue Ridge Electric Co-op in Energy in Lenore, North Carolina, myself. So I would offer that the rural electrification of America might be a model, public policy model, for advancing both things that we need: big sustainable investments in infrastructure for our childcare industry and community and cooperative ownership. So Elias, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to reflect with you all today.
Great. Very interesting, Joe. Thank you for that. Other questions or comments? Yeah, Roya, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Roya Brown with UB Early Learning, and we have Cooperative EDU. We are the first teacher cooperative in the state of Colorado. And we solved our problem by using mobile preschools, going to the marginalized communities, provide pre-K. We provide our services free of charge at this point. And we raise grant money to provide that, and we've been in business for 3 years now. And so every time we have more kids, we buy more mobile preschools, and we go and park it there. And it's pretty mobile, and if they don't need that community doesn't need any more, early childhood, we just move our mobile to another place. So the overhead is very low. So I'd like to, collaborate with other people who are in this space. I would love to do that. We still have some challenges, like licensing. In state of Colorado, it's been really challenging for us, and we need to get licensing in order to reach out. UPK money, universal preschool money, CCAP money, which is funds for the lower income, but we can't do without licensing. But at the same time, licensing for the mobile preschool has been challenging. So anyhow, anybody can help out and talk to me, I would love to do that. Yes. And Geneva, is that correct? I left my email for you to contact me. I would love to talk to you.
Great. I wonder if either Genevieve or Katrina would like to make any comments on what you heard from your other presenters by chance. Feel free.
Well, maybe I'll just say that Genevieve and I have talked before, and I love what she's doing. I think there's so much overlap. And childcare is something that we've thought about as maybe something that Elevate would take on, but it's a lot, there's so much overlap between the challenges, and also there's a lot of differences and just so much nuance in the regulations and licensing, et cetera. So workforce is very similar. Yeah, it's one of those things that, I'm excited to keep talking about, because I think there's a lot of opportunity there and a lot of shared goals. And it's just quite a lot to tackle one industry. So we need to be working alongside each other and learning, and then thinking eventually about, I think, how they bridge together.
Yeah, I think, the heavy regulations is the common theme. So licensing is state by state, and what you do in Oregon does not translate to Texas easily. Texas actually has fewer rules than Oregon, but then the quality of the care will be different, and the care models and the staffing models will be different. So to scale nationally, which which is really what we need in both industries, right? We are dealing with state by state regulations, and a very complicated setup process for facilities. Just to open one center, it will generally take a year because we're converting existing space. Turnkey schools are being bought with cash by large corporations. And it comes down to occupancy permitting with municipalities, and a change of occupancy can be a six-figure invoice that you won't get until the last minute after, like, you've spent the money on the construction many times. And the costs of construction right now are astronomical. So public investment is the only way through this crisis. And in Oregon, we're considering doing what's called like a micro co-op center, so that at least the facility is government owned, so childcare providers can launch out of there. And in rural communities, that might be your only option because there are no other physical structures available. So the mobile unit that Roya was talking about is great, but licensing state by state, it's not really prepared to handle that.
Elias, if I can add one more thing, because I'm just jogging my memory, which is that one really beautiful synergy, or a couple of beautiful synergies between home care and childcare, is that home care is not space dependent. So childcare centers need space. Home care, of course, you need an office, but really you could use a room. Home care is done in the home. So that is a beautiful synergy. It's something we've thought a lot about, and it would be great to explore more with you, Genevieve, about co-locating home care and childcare, especially because one of the largest barriers for home care workers is childcare, unsurprisingly, and getting them there and all of the challenges of that. So there is a lot of opportunity in that. There was a project a couple of years ago where we thought we might pull that together, and where there was actually going to be cooperative adult daycare, cooperative home care, and cooperative childcare, which was a beautiful, sort of synergy of offerings. So there is a lot of opportunity for that, and there's so much need kind of across those different groups. But the opportunity to leverage the space, which is quite expensive, as Genevieve was talking about.
Great. Let me ask Tom Llewellyn to check in, both about our wonderful canvas, but also, Tom, what are your thoughts, bigger picture too? You have some.
Yeah, thank you for that, Elias. So again, for those of you who have joined us, it seems like most folks are already signed up for Canvas, which is kind of our learning space where the recordings and everything from all 8 of these sessions will be housed. There's already lots of great additional reading, which can be found on Canvas. And if you have any questions about that, please do send them my way. I'm just putting my email in the chat right now. And then, I just thinking about the growth and strength of the sector as a whole. I think there was a lot to what Joe was suggesting around looking at rural electric cooperatives as the model. As you can see in the chat, I've just posted a lot of information about electric co-ops and a great kind of 4-minute animated video about the history of electric co-ops that we recently co-produced with the Story of Stuff project, for those of you that are familiar with their work. But from what we've seen with Rural Power Coalition electric co-ops, I mean, we formed this coalition about 3.5 years ago, specifically to push for federal support for electric cooperatives to support the just transition to renewable energy. 9 of the 14 most carbon-intensive energy producers in the U.S. are cooperatives. They're stuck with over $100 billion of debt into antiquated fossil fuel infrastructure, and have some of the highest electric costs for anyone in the country. So there is this giant need for this, national federal support, much like there is for social cooperatives, right? And so we were successful through building this coalition of kind of over 20 core organizations and another somewhat almost 200 supportive organizations at building power, building relationships with various representatives in Congress and getting those champions, working with Representative Cori Bush in Missouri to write draft legislation, which found its way into Build Back Better and then into the Inflation Reduction Act, where we were successful at getting over $10 billion with a B to support that transition of these electric co-ops. So there's a lot of power that can be built both figuratively and also theoretically by forming a coalition around this work, bringing in the core partners and identifying, what is that universal call to action that will help to create the supportive ecosystem necessary to be able to grow the sector. And then, not everybody has to be working towards that individually, but as a coalition, you keep that message and you push that forward. And that's something that I feel like could absolutely grow out of this next 8 weeks and in the coming year of kind of heightening the understanding of social co-ops as a whole and kind of upskilling everybody that's participating in this process.
Love that. All right. You're all familiar with that expression, see you next week, same day, same time. It's not the same time. So I know Minnesota and Erica need to remind everybody, for one occasion only, next week, we will be starting 2 hours earlier. So that's 1 p.m. Eastern. So please translate that into your time zone. What a great session. Thank you, everybody, for attending. More to come. And a pleasure to see you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Take care.
Take care.